how to actually get through these different pieces that you will see and what you're going to be able to do. And here's the good news. It's pretty darn intuitive. You're going to have a nice recording to be able to go back to. And I am absolutely willing to do office hours and or come back and do this again. But we're going to make sure that for the few folks who aren't in yet, and by few, I know when you're in the few, that still stinks, right? But we got you. That is the great news. You are not alone. And I am an avid troubleshooter about any of this stuff. And I want to really, really acknowledge that I get that frustration. And thank you for sticking with me, because I know that this is not easy. Okay.
And I give a really quick testament to how helpful Holly was with me when I started last year. I was having that's a yes, right?
Yes.
I was having all sorts of permissions and logins issues, and she worked with me one-on-one. You took over my computer for a bit, I think, right, Holly? Yep. And then there was some like overall system error that needed to be resolved, like with administration, but I wouldn't have known who to go to, and she did. And the whole thing was figured out by the end of the workday. And I just wanted to say she will get it figured out. And thank you, Holly. We really appreciate you. You are amazing.
Thank you so much. And she's right. We'll make sure this happens, because here's the deal. Machines don't get to win this one. They don't rule the world yet. Even when they do, they're not smart enough to do it very well. So we're still going to be the boss of all this, promise, right? Okay. Wonderful. Gosh, so let's not go down the hole into things and then make me all mushy. I'm going to have to jump back over here and make sure we get this looked at. Okay. So I'm going to log in. Once you can log in, here's what you're going to see when you get in there. Promise. It'll be actually pretty exciting. Once you're able to log in, you won't see all of these. You'll see yours, right? You'll actually see your ePortfolio amongst all of these different ones here. I get to see all of them because this is how this goes. And here's what I'm going to do as a nice reward. Kate, you actually emailed me the stuff that you were going to put in here. And so with your permission, I'd like to use your ePortfolio and show people how to do what I'm going to do. And it means you won't have to go back and do this part.
Oh my God, can I get you a present?
Okay, so I love that your love language is gifts, because that is also one of mine. And can I just say, this is how I have no power, no control. But stars and extra credit and instant success, I'm all about rewarding that. So
I don't know if I can say star. I'm kind of triggered by the star word now.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and grab the information that we need for this so that I've got it ready to go on my side. Once you actually click on your ePortfolio, you're going to be brought to this page so that you can see that front end of what I'm talking about. Okay. And I'm going to prep myself so that, because I'm copying and pasting, I want to make sure I don't bring in a bunch of funny code or things like that. Okay. So this is your ePortfolio, and it is going to look just a little bit different than what people who've been in these before see, and that's because we simplified it. We took away a couple tabs that we found we could consolidate in some way. This front page is where you're going to tell people about yourself, right? Who you are. And that was the question we had earlier, is what about this whole, are we able to do like a template for a bio? This is where you want people to know who you are. So you get to decide what that looks like. You're introducing yourself professionally in relation to this LEND cohort and your leadership project ultimately, right? So this is where you want to put that information. I'm gonna show you the tabs real quick, and then we'll actually do the one assignment that we have to do for this one. And then I will let folks go. So this hours tracking is going to be your very first spot. that you're going to get to go and show up. And when you get in this hours tracking tab, you'll notice a couple things. You can click directly on a link that will open this up into a big Google sheet to make your life way easier to start with, right? When it asks you to sign in, you're going to use that UAA email address that you guys have and your password. That's how you're going to sign into this, okay? But also, you can see that this is embedded. So you can actually click and you can do things right in that sheet as it stands right here in this spot. And this is where you're going to be recording those hours that you're talking about. We have some good examples of what that looks like down here in this bottom sheet, right? And this bottom sheet is also the link that you see at the top of the page, that second link. And this talks about what are those different activities that you can record for your hours tracking, and what is it going to look like when you record those at the bottom, right? You just want the date and a really brief activity description. Now, here's the beautiful part for you guys to know. We tried to make this easy. So it's going to subtotal for you in the gold line right here. It's going to keep a running count, which means don't change that line. And for those of you that click and accidentally change that line, just tell us right away so that we can go get it fixed. That's the other part, is don't ever be afraid of making sure you can come right to us and let us know if something's not working correctly so we can get it fixed quickly for you. And Ken, you won't see any of the portfolios yet, and I'll say why in just a moment. So the other thing to note when you're over here in this is we've made it so that those same definitions you saw on that really long sheet, when you hover over the box for the different types of activities, it will pop it up and it will show you the definitions of some of those. And then remember when I was telling you in this schedule, here's those hour types in this column. That's what that goes to, is the hour type that you get to record the different hours under from this spot here. So those are the really cool tricks all the way around that we've shown you, and your mentors will work with you one-to-one about how to get this filled out or what else might be going on. Everybody has their very own one that is only theirs and it's only in their portfolio. Okay. So that's the hours tracking tab. The next one is going to be on your leadership goals. Your mentor, again, will work with you on these things, and this will be part of the work that you do as you move through Lend. So we just want you to be able to see that there's some information at the top and then the spot where you will actually record those things. Leadership project is laid out very similarly. Information here at the top. Anything like this is actually a link. Remember when I hover over it and it turns into that little pointer finger, it means it's something I can do. So this one is a link, and this is where it will take you to some of those documents that will give you additional information as you move through. And you can see there's going to be some different components that you can use as you go through. And again, our homework, or what we're going to do together shortly, is going to be what these boxes all do as well. They all do the same kind of thing, so that will help you. This required activities tab is where you're going to want to spend some time, because this will show you from top to bottom what all the different things that you need to be able to do are. And throughout the time together in Lend, you can notice on some of these, we've made a little note, and you can see that for LTTs, for instance, there's a different number of hours they do than what the AMTTs do, right? Those long-term versus medium-term fellows. So we've tried to include that information across. Same thing when you look in the top of the leadership project. One of the notes we made was, if you're a medium-term fellow and you're not doing a leadership project, let myself, Nathan, or Vanessa know, or all three of us together, and we will help you remove this tab so it doesn't even show up in your ePortfolio anymore for you. Okay. This journal tab here, that is an optional tab, or it's something that you use for your makeup assignments if you miss a session and watch the recording instead. So your mentors will work with you on that. I'm going to skip back to the home tab. Any questions about just the what you're seeing in front of you part? Not the content, that's the homework to come. I'm not gonna overwhelm you with any of that kind of stuff because none of it's overwhelming. It can totally happen.
So Holly, how do I get access to this, to a template?
So are you wanting to see somebody's or you're wanting your own template to build?
I don't want to build anything. I want to see what's all, you've got examples in there. I want to see all that.
Oh yeah, no problem. So here's what it is. I will make sure, and you will shortly be able to see this. Now, all of the faculty in here, I left them a little bit blind compared to where everyone else is. And here's why. They're all listed as viewers, right? And because they're listed as a viewer, until you publish or actually do something in your portfolio, your mentor can't see it, which is how they know that you didn't click the button, right? So there's two things that you're going to want to remember that you always want to do. One is when you're done editing, always click this little blue button that says publish changes. Until you actually publish something, none of your mentors or faculty can see any of this, which is why Ken can't see it and Karen can't see it yet. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to edit something on this page. I'm going to click that publish button, and then the folks that need to be able to see this will be able to see it. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, welcome to my ePortfolio with the name. So you see when I hover how I get like a little box with little dot lines around it. Click on the box and then those little dot lines turn blue. That means that I'm in the box and it's going to stay. Madeline, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was able to post my photo, but when I go to hit the publish changes, it says I must be an administrator to view this page.
So to view the page, yes, but to publish the page, you should be fine. So what I'm going to do is have you take a picture of that and text me it, because that will help me get that figured out. This is the part where we do
Okay.
all the right permission things, but sometimes we have to go and like, arm wrestle the machine for a second.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So once you've hovered and you get this the dotted lines with the blue, then click on the pencil. This now means you are editing this spot. Okay. So when I look, do you want it to be Caitlin Soft or Kate Soft, or how do you want your name here?
Let's do Kate. Hopefully I won't be in trouble and I'll have a gold star someday.
And you see, you can do several different things. You can say, welcome to the portfolio for Kate Soft, right? You can change any of those things that you want in here, but you want to make sure that it stays right like it is. Now, here's part of the thing to remember. People sometimes are like, well, what if I want to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller? It's already got some stuff built in to not have you do too many changes size-wise, because that way it stays real standard. So just know there's some parts you won't get to do as much with, okay? And Madeline, did you have another question, or you just don't know how to get your hand down?
Yeah, how do you put your hand down? I can only see put it up.
So if you click on the participant window at the very bottom where it says raise hand, you can also lower your hand in the same place you raised it, or in that little
Perfect. Thank
reactions
you.
button.
Thank you. Learned something new.
See, this is the part where they're like, oh yeah, just go back to the same place. I'm like, why would I think that I would click the same button I had clicked to raise my hand? Like that just doesn't make sense in my brain. I'm with you. So, okay. So now we've got this part. Now all I have to do is click outside the box and boom, automatic saving. That is the beauty of this, right? Like I'm all about save it automatically for me. Okay. And it saves it every few seconds. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing again, because now I want to put in my bio. I'm going to click on the box where that bio is. I'm going to click on that little pencil because that's going to get me into the mode where I can do this. I'm going to go grab the bio. And I'm gonna pop it all in here. Now, one of the things is you see how darn big this is, right? And you're like, wait a second, what if I don't want it? I want it to look better. I can hover over the edges and you see where now I get a little dot with those little arrows. I can resize this a little bit, right? I can actually resize some different things, but here's the best way, because this is not actually a title. This is other words. When I highlight it all, see how I see the word heading here in blue? That means it's marking it as a heading, which will make sense come accessibility time, even if not now. What I want this to be is the paragraph, right? Not the heading, the paragraph. I'll leave it heading size right now. And then because I can see that there's something I want to go in and change the settings for. But you can see, you can even drag this so it's much longer. So you can make sure all of your words show up. So this is where you're going to put your bio. Okay. And again, when I'm done, click outside the box and I'm all done. Now we're going to do the exact same thing again for our picture. We're going to go in, and this one has directions for you. So it says insert your picture by clicking on this image and selecting the pencil to edit, then select upload your file. So see how it comes up right here like this? I'm going to say, okay, then I want to go ahead and I want to add my item. And it's going to ask me what I'm doing. And I'm going to say, I want to upload a file because that's the picture. You can see I also could have clicked on the camera and actually taken my picture right from my machine, right? Real straightforward. I'm going to select my file to upload by going to the spot where I saved this picture. Oh, that's not the one I want. I want. There we go. So I did it just like that. You can see, and then I'm going to upload it, right? There she is. Fantastic. Now, when it says edit caption, caption your picture. This is something that reads with something called alt text or alternative text. Because if a screen reader read this, it would read the name of the file, which was some numbers. And Kate is not numbers, right? So alt text looks like something like Kate Soft is smiling at the camera against a snowy background. And then, Kate, when we get you in, you can come in and add things that describe yourself to someone who could not see your picture, right? That's what alt text is. It's to say, if you couldn't see me, how would I let you know that I am a young woman with long brown, dark brown hair, right? So you'll get to put those extra things in. And once we're done, we click outside the box. Ta-da! That is the homework. This is instant success of now your first page is done, and we're going to publish the changes. We're going to save the settings and we're going to publish that. Now, when Karen and Ken and the other folks who have permission go and refresh their screen, they should see that they will be able to see Kate's ePortfolio right there.
So how do I refresh my screen?
You're on a Mac, you can push Command R. Or in the very top, that little weird circle with an arrow at the end of it is a refresh for you.
Oh,
Okay. Breathe in, breathe out. Questions? Who managed to get something posted in their ePortfolio?
it doesn't show up for me.
Okay, I'll look at your screen shortly and make sure, because again, that's all permissions. We want to make sure that's happening. Rick, what's your question? You're muted.
So I
I have an accessible issue.
got
The question.
yeah.
It can wait until everybody else is done.
But for my
It has to do with my disability.
I have to So
and how I'm able to access
the what that?
the website.
Okay, so how about, let me do this. Let's see if there's any others, and then I will absolutely circle back to that, because this is that part that we welcome. Crystal?
Sorry, so when I try to hit the blue button to publish, it says that it pops something up and it says you must be an administrator to view this page. Did I miss something about how to make that go away?
Do you see anything in the bottom that tells you to, that says save or not?
I know that it has been saving automatically, but it doesn't, nothing comes up when that administrator message pops up. It's just that message. That's it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go look at something really quickly. And I'm gonna, specifically for yours, I'm gonna go jump in and check this security setting real quick, because this is exactly the part that we gotta make sure works.
Okay, and it looks like a few more people are saying that they're having the same problem in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, and this is where, because I've got you right here, I'm gonna test this setting with you, and if it works for you, then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do this on every single person's settings real quick, and then you'll be able to go in and get this done, okay? So. All right, so Crystal, I want you to refresh for me. And then I want you to try to publish your changes again.
That worked.
That worked. Okay, so I know the setting to go fix, and I will go into every single one of these and get that done. But I'm going to do it while we're on break, because I want to make sure you guys get, I know we're a little bit past time, and I know that that makes everyone feel antsy with our time stuff. So I want to make sure we get a short break and then can move into that, the end of the day. But I'm staying here to get all of this stuff going behind the scenes real quick. Okay. Other questions? So I'm not throwing people out just yet here.
Should we work directly with you or just wait for you to do the things that, right, you need to do for the good of the whole?
For the, are you talking about that
For the mini.
specific setting?
Well, yeah, I just can't get into my ePortfolio at all.
Yeah, no, actually, hang on real tight, because that's
Okay.
as soon as I do this, this setting piece real fast,
Okay.
then I'm actually going to jump back over and see what their status is in the queue with fixing the 8 folks that aren't fixed yet. And I
Sounds
will
great.
let you know whether we do it together or we do it not, but I've got everyone marked, and I'll make sure we're all taken care of together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All right. Other questions, or do we want to do a break there? Vanessa, I'll let you be the boss of that.
Let's see, are there any questions regarding this just yet? Or should we take a 15-minute break and then come back and see where people are at, both in the way of the responses that Holly's going to get from the people that she needs to contact and what she needs to look up, and then we'll check back in with her before we do our final talk. Does that sound all right? Or does anybody have something that they'd like to ask before we go on break? Seeing head shaking in the way of no's instead of yeses. Don't see any hands up. Rick, I see your hand is up still. Is that anything new or? Okay, all right. I'll go ahead and put your hand down with my little special tools here. And we are going to take a break. It's going to be a full 15 minutes. So we'll come back at 3:17. We'll go ahead and put the break slide up there. And Nathan, if you could go ahead and put the break slide up, that'd be great. And then for the rest of us, yeah, take a break. See you soon. And when we come back, we'll check back in with Holly and see where that's at. Okay. And thanks so much, Holly, for looking into all of this for us. I think this is such an important thing as we get going. So fantastic. You're doing great.
Thank you. Let me just say, you know, for as crazy as this looks and feels for some folks, the truth is this is invaluable for me to get you guys launched.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Please go ahead and turn on your cameras if you're here so we know who's here. And let's go ahead and check back in with Holly and see what's happened.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have those faculty that were asking about seeing a template and all that good stuff. Go ahead and refresh on your screens and tell me if you're seeing anything now. And then I'm going to have folks that are just coming back in. Go ahead and try to publish again. And see how that works for you. Just go ahead and publish. It's going to ask you about a privacy setting. You can have it be just within the university system or stay private. Either way, it's overridden with the people that we've added at the bottom as being the only people that get to see it. So there's still, you know, a little cushion around that. Let me know what you're seeing or not seeing now. For all of our faculty, what you should see is just a one that says template so that you can at least see the base that this was created from for everybody. And then if your fellow has also successfully published, you'll see theirs coming through as well. For the 8 folks that haven't been able to successfully log in yet, that is the very next thing. I'm actually going to be leaving this session just so I can get right in with my guy and get all of your accounts looked at from the very back side so that we can get you taken care of right away. All right, and then
I still don't see anything different.
yeah, that's what I am looking at here. So I'm going to have you, let's see, for 18 and 19 for Lend. Ken or Karen, actually, Ken, would you be willing to screen share so I can take a peek at what you're seeing? Or do you want to do it outside and we can make sure that we circle up with all of our faculty and do a quick something?
You want me to screen share?
Yeah, if you could. That helps me see what may or may not be happening. They recently did a really nice update to Digication for several other things, but there's a few items that changed from previous iterations. And it makes me.
So I see portfolios for 2 of my mentees from 1920 and my current classes, and that's it.
Okay. Over on the left-hand side, where you see the little red D, and then you go down, keep going down until you see the briefcase. Click on that for me. And then under this search piece, I want you to type the word Lend in the box that says search.
Okay, you'd have to help me find search.
About the center of the page from where you are, just above the UAA Chimera gallery.
I got it.
Type the word Lend, and then I'm going to have you change something in the box that's just to the side of that. Now, under the word activity, click on the word activity and choose last created.
Ta-da.
Ta-da! You can see all kinds of things now. So the ones that you are added to up there, those first 6 are the ones that are those newer ones that you are added to, who are your fellows. So if you want to click on Caitlin Soft, because that's the one I did, then you'll be able to see what we did there.
So you did, I got to the briefcase and then what?
Okay, so I'm gonna steal back the control because I can show you from there. Real easy. Okay, so from the briefcase, then it's going to come up and you're going to go down to the center-ish part of the page where you see the word search, and you're going to type in the word lend. And then under this little drop down, choose the word last created. There are so many portfolios in our system now that we're having to actually start searching because there are thousands to be able to get to see, which is kind of cool and a lot some days. And then once it comes up, it will automatically search and you should see something start coming up there at the top.
I do.
And then I put this little icon that is our Lend logo as that thumbnail to make it really easy for everyone to see that's the thing you're looking for, right? Because it's going to look the same every time. So visually we can find it quick. Nice. Carrie can see it as well. That's awesome. Anna, are you able to see anything?
It's pictured in Publish, but I can see the portfolio.
Good, good. All right. So Anna, the question about to save them so you don't have to search each time. You know what? I don't know that answer, but I'm going to find it out for you because I would be with you. Like, make this easy for me, right? As soon as I know, I will let you guys know. I want to make sure I answer any other questions before I tuck myself out of the way, because I'm going to go and I'm going to start working on my final folks that don't have that access so we can get you in and make sure you're taken care of. Carrie.
And should we be able to see all the fellows or just our 2 fellows that we're working with this year?
Just the 2 that you have, unless as a team internally, we all decide we want to change that. I just went with what our time had been each time. So if we want to change that, I'm happy to go in and make those changes. Not hard.
Okay, I can see one, but not both. So I'll email
Yeah.
one.
No worries. So when you guys are in Blackboard as well, before you even try to go to Digication, there are 3 different examples sitting there. They are with older templates, so you'll see different tabs than what you see here, but it gives you some ideas of things that you can be able to see and understand what a finished portfolio might look like, or one that is in progress and getting a few things added. That way you're not alone. You can also see there's about 1 billion portfolios in this site. You can go look all over the place in UAA and see what all kinds of people are doing, and some of the innovative work that's happening and some of the ways they've laid things out. So the thing is, don't change your menus or try to change your pages into different pages, right? But this good template to start with, and we've made it so you just get to replace or type in to all the different boxes that exist to keep life easy for you. Okay, any other questions? Just because I have to go between a couple screens to make sure that I can see everybody. Once again, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Holly. Carrie and I were just messaging back and forth. So is there a reason why I can see Madeline's and she can't, although Madeline is technically her fellow that she's mentoring?
Let
and then
me
I
look
have Meredith, but I don't see Meredith, but I know she's having some issues with the login.
So you said that you can see Madeline, but you can't see Meredith?
Correct. And I don't believe Carrie can see Madeline.
So I will go in and I will check to see that, because I don't know until I go look in the backside settings. But I will check on that. And this is the part that's really useful. When you guys run into these things, send them to me, right? Email me and just say, here's what I'm seeing, or here's what I'm not. I often tell people, because I'm real visual, right? Send me, take a picture on your phone and text me that picture and tell me who you are. Because sometimes I'll be like, and who is this, right? But send me a texted picture from your phone. Boy, that tells me right away what's happening, even if you don't have all the same words about it. That for sure lets me see something to fix right away, okay? So I made a note of that and I will go check those settings to see what's going on. And then you folks that I have marked as I couldn't get in still, you will be getting an email from me. Okay. So just know that you'll hear from me shortly, as soon as I know some better answers. And we're going to make sure, even if I had to come one-to-one with everyone versus all together, we'll make sure we get you guys in and taken care of. So. And one last time, thank you so much, Kate, for letting me do that to yours. I appreciate that. Karen, go ahead.
So I'm just gonna say, will you have time when Linda's over to help me with this dumb PDF that I can't seem to get out of here? I forgot about it at lunch.
Let me do this. Let me give me a text when you're out and I will see if I'm still troubleshooting this other one or if I can jump over.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank everyone for their time. I know it's been really long. I super appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to move into our last topic. And because that was a lot, yet terribly important, I want to just take literally a minute and let's do some belly breathing. Breathe in through your nose, a deep breath, out through your mouth. And seriously, a full, deep breath. And when you exhale, exhale as much air as you feel comfortable doing. I know when I was speaking to my physical therapist about a year ago, she let me know that I don't breathe deeply. I'm a shallow breather. And so, so go ahead and inhale through your nose, both nostrils. And now exhale through your mouth and keep on exhaling. Let all the way to those bottom of those lungs. Exhale. Keep going all the way out. And then let's do it again. Back in. And all the way out. If you need to make noise while it's coming out, while you push that air out, that's fine. It means you're really exhaling. I always tell my daughter when she catches me doing this, I sound like a dragon because I'm doing this sound. You know, for me with the tech, it can be anxiety provoking. And I'm thinking about the things that I don't know or that I might have a due date from and I can't get in and I want to see it and I want to do it well. I'm just starting a new program. I start finding myself tensing up. I'm starting to get like a dowager's hump as I lean over. I just feel a lot happening like right all in here. I start clenching my toes. So I have to remind myself to do this deep belly breathing every so often. And I just wanted to see if anybody could use that moment. Just even a minute really helps me change my perspective and find my centering again. You know, that whole thing of some people find it silly, but I find it helpful. And I've been one of those people that have found it silly of putting both feet on the ground flat, not all crunched up in my chair like I usually am, but just flat on the ground, spreading my toes out in my little shoes, feeling my socks on my feet, feeling myself grounded back to this carpet that's in my office, back to this floor that has no give, you know, and just letting myself feel these things. And then that puts me back in the moment, back in my body, instead of being all caught up in my head. So I just wanted to encourage us to take a moment away from what we have been doing. And if that was getting you guys amped up inside or in your bodies in different ways, and just take a moment because that's important. That self-care and that honoring ourselves and our bodies and our experiences is really important. And I say this as a super nerdy researcher. You know, so the thing that I wanted to move into next was this aspect of the work that you've seen, that you've heard with Lend, and that we are a group that comes from many disciplines, which means a lot of different fields of study. We have each one of us in our years here on this planet have had so many different lived experiences. Some people talk about hats and how we wear different hats, that you are different people in different settings. And we bring all of that to these times, to these places, to these conversations, all of these different experiences, all of these learnings, and all of our strengths as well, right? As we talked about with Kathy Gerby earlier today, as we talked about in our small groups. I wanted to use some of our time to really focus in on the aspect of Len that is our interdisciplinariness and what that word means. Because you'll hear it a lot here in our LEND program. And I know for me, it took me a while to begin wrapping my head around what that meant in this setting and how I might engage with others for the purposes of advocacy and support of individuals that have disabilities. And what my discipline is, start claiming that, owning it, using my strengths, my understanding, and my professionalism, my education, and my own lived experiences then in advocacy, in meetings and things like that. And how do I articulate that when I'm meeting people in a short way, right? You'll be asked time and time again in this LEND program to introduce yourself. And you don't get 30 minutes to explain your experiences. You get probably 2 sentences. And so when one of your LEND faculty, like Karen Ward, says, we're just going to introduce ourselves, fellows, to this guest speaker, you might have this freak out moment. I know I do. Anytime somebody asks for this, let's do a round of introductions of what do I say? What's important to cover right now? And for this setting, oftentimes it's important to cover who you are, where you're from, and what discipline you're in. Again, this interdisciplinariness. So let's talk about what these disciplines are for the LEND program. And so that way you have a bit of a heads up as to what that expectation is for these introductions. And when you hear that word time and time again over the next goodness knows how many weeks, it'll just, maybe you'll remember a little bit about this session. And I wanted to offer this from the get-go because I'm new to the field of disabilities. I've done a lot of work in other health settings, but there were a lot of words that were used differently when I came to work in the Center of Excellence on Disabilities and doing the research and evaluation I've been doing for the past year or so. And I've very much felt like a fish out of water. I still am. I really appreciate LEND because it's an opportunity to learn from our self-advocates and our families, first off, and then from other people that have other experiences in their fields of interest, the things they've been studying for years in school and in their clinical practices and in their classrooms and their counseling, in their clinics. What an opportunity, right? But and at the same time, I also just realized I can get this sense of imposter syndrome, even though I've been at this stuff for a couple decades in public health. And as a professional, I went to school for a lot of years. I'll share my screen right now and you can see how many letters I have after my name. And that should mean something more, I think, to me than it feels like it does. And I don't know if I shared the right screen or not. Are you guys seeing a white screen with some black letters? All right. So yeah, I'm Vanessa Horodzyka. My background is in public health. The MPH means Masters of Public Health. I got that degree here at UAA in the Masters of Public Health program, a distance delivered program. And then I got my doctorate in public health through another program that was largely online. And so that's my background, is in public health. And a lot of people don't know what public health is, even though you often find people with my training and degrees in the workforce. And right now in COVID times, we hear a lot about the public health workforce. But I know just around my dinner table and in my living room, most of my family members don't have a clue as to what that means, even though they've been hearing a lot and seeing a lot there. And I figure across our various disciplines, that might be true too, of what happens in other disciplines like occupational therapy or speech pathology or. And so I wanted to just take a few minutes, and that's all that we have this afternoon. And that's okay, because we're going to have this whole year together. But just an opportunity for openness and vulnerability to share about disciplines. What are these disciplines that we come from? And how might we learn what that training is and how it applies to children and families with developmental disabilities. Some of you have many, many years of lived experience of working with people in different disciplines. And this might be old hat for you. This might be something that isn't new information, but for some of you it might be. And I just wanted to see if we could do some leveling of the field there, again, in a vulnerable space. Because for me, I've heard some of these terms and words, but I really didn't have a good sense of what they meant. And I didn't want to feel goofy by saying, I don't know what you do. And if we don't know, then how can we work together well? So I just wanted to take a few minutes here and just kind of get this conversation going. So this is some information here. This text on the screen is something that you probably have seen in the application to the LEND program, in our materials. This was possibly in earlier slides today and yesterday. And I really highlighted here in red text the interdisciplinary leadership training that LEND is. And so if this is part of what it is that we're doing, we should have a clue as to what it means, right? So that way we can do it well. And so in the LEND programs, we have LEND programs here in Alaska and also in many, many other locations, other states. Our LEND fellows and faculty have different personal and educational backgrounds. And through the legislation, as Jenny and Karen had mentioned, and the grant funding that we have for this program, these here, the bulleted points, are each of the different disciplines that fellows can come from. I've highlighted in red text the disciplines that our fellows, this cohort, represent. And I just want to say, for me, I don't use the word discipline like I am in these past 15 minutes. That's not how I tend to use that word. I think of field of study instead of discipline. But you're going to hear in LEND, they'll say the word discipline, and it means field of study, or that's another word, guys, faculty members. That might be a good synonym there.
Area?
Area, there we go. What area, what background do you have? A lot of times this is in reference to both, again, your personal, your educational background, but also your personal background. And many of us have intersections. We had to talk about intersectionality. So multiple hats that you wear is another way of thinking about that. Different things that you know about. The next thing that I just wanted to ask a couple of our faculty to share about their discipline and share a little bit about the ways that people in your discipline support individuals with developmental disabilities. And yeah, thank you, Anna. Field, profession, scope of practice. Again, for me, sometimes it's helpful to hear synonyms. So I get a sense of, oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. And I don't know if that's because I grew up in a family where English was a second language. And so although it's the only language that I speak, there are times where I don't feel like I'm very proficient in it. And so I often appreciate conversations around these things. So I was wondering if I could go around and have a couple faculty speak about their disciplines and respond to these questions. Carrie, maybe I can call on you.
Sure. Well, I always like to define occupation because most people, when they hear occupational therapy, they think, oh, you must help someone find a job, because people hear occupation and think job. But in our world, occupation is just meaningful activity, and each of us has meaningful activity in our day. And so occupational therapists, we have a lot of training in a lot of different areas, neuroanatomy, anatomy. We have sort of an understanding of the body and of mental health. And so the different ways that probably we support individuals with developmental disabilities is anything from, perhaps with an infant who is experiencing perhaps a stay in the NICU or something like that. So we can certainly address those developmental concerns and some of the, the effects of some of the medical conditions while supporting that caregiving set. Also, in general, like we kind of work on fine motor skills, sensory processing skills, cognitive skills, lots of different areas, areas of development or sort of areas of domain that people experience in their life. And in terms of how do we interact with other disciplines, I would say that really my most enjoyable years of clinical practice was working with Anna. She and I worked together at Focus many years ago. But I just bring that up to say I'm very much an interdisciplinary clinician. I really like getting feedback from other disciplines. I feel like that just brings a really unique and holistic perspective to both clients and their families. I think that's just always been a part of how I am. So when I started doing LEND and learning more about interdisciplinary practice, it was very affirming for sort of how I orient myself in the clinical world and also just advocate for interdisciplinary practice in healthcare, certainly. I'm reading the questions. Did I answer everything, Vanessa?
Yeah, you sure did. I was going to call next upon Tracy and then Kathleen. Tracy, if you would go ahead and speak about the family discipline that you represent for us.
So as family, we're the first person. As a mom, you're the first person who recognizes that something is different, something's not right. And so we're our child's first advocate, and we have to navigate this system that is often complicated and has so many roadblocks and red tape and barriers. And I like to see how family interacts with other disciplines. I felt we worked as a team. We had massive OT, speech, physical therapy, medical appointments. We worked with the school district, and oftentimes those were not easy, but once you built a team, we all worked together. And as family, we don't just go to an OT appointment and that's it. We have our homework to do with our child. And, same as speech therapy and physical therapy. Being a parent, I got thrust into being an advocate because 21 years ago, we didn't have much services at all with autism. And I was asked to go to my first key campaign. And that was life-changing, learning how to advocate. And so that led to a little side journey of advocating very heavily. And I think family is really important for systems change and all of that.
Thank you, Tracy. And then finally for faculty, I was going to ask Kathleen if she might share about the nursing discipline.
Tracy, that was very well said. I'm a nurse, and actually I work in the hospital setting. So I feel like nurses, it's actually in our, so to meet individuals on their own plane where they are in the moment. And most of the time when you see a nurse, you're feeling very vulnerable. You're feeling very scared, intimidated. It's, so I always try to envision myself as just the kind one that's here to help with whatever you need guidance for. And working with many, I am a pediatric nurse, so I feel like I've worked with an array of children, and all children are very unique to me. And the way that we can all interact as an interdisciplinary team, from working with the physical therapist to the doctors to the respiratory therapists. We've had special education teachers come in, to assist the children that are there for a while. We all do basic education, and I feel like that's where nursing makes me very proud, is that I will always help answer that question, support that need that you may not be able to verbalize, but maybe on some level that I can see what you need and guide you to that person. If it's not just, put a Band-Aid on your boo-boo and, tell you to, wash your hands, to be able to guide you to those resources that you may need for further support. That's how I see our nurses.
Thank you. And I just wanted to, have a time here. I'm just gonna, yes, Julie, I agree. Advocacy equals nursing, RN, registered nurse. And I wanted to, when I set this up, I had some breakout rooms that we would do, and an opportunity for us to introduce ourselves and the disciplines we come from, and think about these same questions that I pose to faculty members. And so rather than do breakout rooms, I just wanted to take, again, another literal minute and ask us to have some silent reflection, and to think about these questions here for yourself. Bear that in mind as you're thinking about, your discipline, how you would introduce yourself. And this is a little bit of this anticipatory guidance, right? Thinking through our future introductions as we have our guest speakers. So let me just set my little timer for a minute, and let's just have some quiet introspection and think about these questions for each one of ourselves, as it applies to our LEND program here. I don't know if you can hear my timer, but that's a minute. So with that, I know sometimes it doesn't take a long time, just a minute, to collect your thoughts and think about your discipline, right, in this case, and what you'd like to share. So I think it's always important to be ready for next week. Now you're already ready. You've had just a literal moment, a literal minute to think about your discipline and reflect on that for your introductions to come. So just real quick, anybody want to share about your discipline and how that applies to interdisciplinary work? Any fellows wish to share?
Well, this is Julie. Being an RN in mental health, we worked, it was really nice because we would have team meetings and we floated from the adults to the pediatrics. And our OT was there, the hospital OT who would work with the kiddos to see if they had any sensory issues or that they could help with along with everything else. So that was very fruitful, I say, because we can all talk to each other and the care that our patients receiving is well-rounded, right? From the psychiatrist to the RN, what are we seeing to what's happening on the OT side and helping us be more aware of those issues that may not be noticeable, but because of their training, they can capture that better than the rest of the team. So everyone contributed. So it's great.
Thank you for that example, Julie. One of the things that I find helpful and one of the things that I'm interested in, is this last one of, what we hope to learn from other disciplines. And I'm wondering if anybody would like to share, maybe about your discipline and what you might want to learn from a discipline that you maybe don't come in contact with as much in your current professional role or as a family member or as a self-advocate.
I don't mind sharing. So this is Christine, and it's great to hear the word focus. My first job after getting a divorce was I worked for Focus and I worked in the art program. So I did day hab services. And at the time, my kid was like maybe 18 months old. So he was diagnosed with autism through Dr. Brennan when he was 2. And I had coworkers I could talk to and ask about, what do I need to do? There's Stone Soup Group, there's all these things you need to go through. So I have the experience from working one-on-one with individuals with disabilities, but then as a parent, and then now for the last 5 years, I've worked at Access Alaska, where we provide direct care to people. And so that in that company, I've just done nothing but learn regulations and in-home care and PCA and DSPs and that whole side of it, where my kid may only get respite, but I have a good understanding of community-based waivers and different programs, but I don't have the medical side. So I really am excited to learn more about the medical side and then the project I want to do, like how that's going to impact, because my purpose here is definitely to hopefully have an impact on the community. And my kid's name is Felix, and future Felix is that there's better wraparound services for him and that he doesn't have to experience, he's got a loud mom, but that that other kids just have a better guide than what's out there.
Thanks, Christine. I really appreciate that. And thank you for, in some ways introducing us to Felix as well.
Can I say something, because you triggered, I also, right, Christine, we introduced ourselves on, but my daughter was diagnosed with autism at 3.5. My mom had a brain injury in 2013. And I had no idea how grateful I was to have that experience in a weird way, because I'm the organized one in my family and sort of pulled everybody together and put everybody on shifts and made sure somebody was with her for 24 hours, around the clock kind of thing. And it's so disjointed, is my opinion. Because, right, since it was a brain injury, it was like they send in everybody, they send in the cavalry. And my undergrad was sports medicine, and I was thinking I wanted to become a physical therapist. I've worked at a physical therapy clinic. So I'm not new to healthcare. And it still was like, people don't really introduce themselves. They just kind of come in and are like, let's get after it. And I'm thinking, I knew PT, but I didn't know all the other, array of things, and how differently it presents. And so in Lend, one thing I'm looking for, I'd like to see, and then having my daughter with her autism, how that came to me so disjointed. And it was always through somebody being like, hey, you should get her connected to this, and then I get her connected to that. And it's like the next thing. I think it all comes down to who we are, right? And like what we come with. And I'd love to see more of a start with psychology, with a psychologist, and having a look at that, and then having that psychologist be able to say, these are, the different specialties, and this is how I think this would serve your individual person. Because we got served, but it was so overwhelming, quite frankly. And so I'd like to see more of a center, a place to start, and then have those people know this is what you can branch out to, because there's tons of specialties within nursing, within OT, within PT. But I don't, even if coming from that world, like I was in school with people that were wanting to be doctors, go into medicine. And we didn't learn that. So.
Thank you, Caitlin. And Garrett, I see your hand up. We'll call on you next. And then after you, we're going to go ahead and do a wrap up because we're coming up at 4 o'clock.
I'll make this quick, but one of my former disciplines, I was a peer mentor, a DSP for people with disabilities, and one thing that I really learned from that was that your clients will I don't want to say listen to you better, but they actually follow through with what you want them to do if your DSP is a person with a disability, because they don't see you telling them what to do because you're getting paid to do that. They're seeing a person that's relatable to them, so they're more willing to do the objective because they see you as, oh, he's doing it as a friend, he's not doing it for the paycheck. So that's really something that I've learned as a DSP. Again, being a former discipline.
Thanks, Garrett. I appreciate that. The value of peers and the value of seeing things and having those conversations. And, that's exactly what I wanted to use this time for. I'm sorry we weren't able to get into small groups and have more. I was going to make those very small groups so that way we could have more intimate discussions and each one of you could get to know one another. But I think it was very important that we dealt with the tech information too. So Holly will be getting back to you. Those of you that hadn't been able to get into your e-portfolios. One thing that Nathan and I might do is send out to all fellows the leadership plan kind of prompts that you had seen in the e-portfolio. We can go ahead and email that out to everybody. So that way, if you have access or don't, you're still going to see what those prompts are and you can begin responding, because that does have a sooner than later due date. We recognize that that's a truth, and we want to make sure that you can start thinking about those things and responding to them. So I'll chat with Nathan and we'll figure out how to get that information out to all the fellows. That way, regardless of your access, you can still move forward and have those ideas percolating and responding. If they go in e-portfolio or not, that's a-okay. We'll figure it out together. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking with us for 2 days of online orientation. That is some tough sledding, doing all of this virtually, but it's been fantastic to get to know you And I'll turn it back over to Jenny and Karen for any closing thoughts.
Jenny, you want to go?
Sure. I am so impressed. Look how many of us are still vertical after 2 days of an orientation. You all rock. I've enjoyed my time with you. And given the hour, I'll say see you next Friday.
And I echo Jenny's comments, and without further ado, have a great weekend.